Yeah, it just seems like even like in Netflix, you just skip it. So I'm like, what's the point? Let's just get
Yeah.
to the meat of it. You know what I
Everybody
mean?
skips an intro. I know I do all the time. I don't like
It's like,
YouTube intros. They annoy
yeah,
me.
it's like after a while, you're like, I get it. I know who you are. Like I'm here. Obviously, I found
Exactly.
you, right? Like I had to search your name to
Exactly.
watch this. So it's like I know
Yep.
why I'm here.
Yep.
But you know what? It's all good. Maybe our generation will be the first to cancel the intro.
I would love
I
that.
feel
If
like that's where we're headed.
let's cancel something like that's good, it's
Yeah, right?
good.
Not just regular people living their life. I'm
Exactly.
having an opinion. But I guess like this is the first time that I've ever met you, and I will say like I have been watching you from afar and just like blown away by like all the creative things that you do. Like I am a fan. Like it's just so beautiful to see how you express yourself and to like be your authentic self and like to leverage like the skills that you're learning to also teach others. Like to me that is so beautiful. And so for me, I'm like really happy that you agreed to be on the pod because like I really just wanted to know who you are and like hear about your story and like how you ended up kind of just in this place, like being an incredible creative, especially from the island. So can you, yeah,
Yeah.
like what is the story of Devony? Like
Whew.
where does it
Um
start? Yeah.
well, it starts all the way in Holland. I was just born as a Sagittarius. No, I'd say that a lot of times I wonder if it's nature or nurture, and I think been a bit of both. I come from a pretty creative family in the sense of that my mom was always into graphic design and interior design and all of those things. And my grandmother, besides of the many things that she studied fashion design and photography. And my grandfather is a writer. Well, was a writer. He
Wow.
passed. So yeah, from that, there was just so many different ways for me to go. And I've always been creative. And I think it's just because of my autism that I get fixated. Like,
Mm.
once I like something, that's what I'm going to go for until I can perfect it. So it kept going and then going through trying to figure out who I am as a person. And I just started expressing that through art. And many times it's like expressing what you think. Like I would always write something and then try to create visuals for that. And sometimes it's just experimenting and wondering why, you know, life is life.
I feel.
Yeah, I
That is so
wish.
awesome. I guess like so when did you move to the island or like when did you come to St. Martin? Cuz yeah,
Yeah,
cuz I know
let's see.
you've spent some time there as well,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. I would consider St. Martin my home. I was born in Holland and then my mom moved when I was 6. So then we were in Curacao for 4 years. And then at 10, yeah, at 10, I got to St. Martin. And then I was there for about 6, 7 years, something like that. And then I moved because of the hurricane. So I had to come back. It wasn't planned. It was just like get out before the hurricane so that you're safe. And then it was like, well, your home is basically not there. So you have to stay here now. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's just how it all started. But St. Martin's really my home because like that's my teenage years there, the puberty, all the things that really ground you in a place and make you feel really connected. I think I have formed one of the best friendships and experiences and been through all the good and bad stuff there. So that's my home no matter what.
Yeah. I agree. I don't know. I now live in the States, and for me, like St. Martin is just there's no place that beats it. Like I don't know what
Yeah,
it is. Like there's just nothing can come close to making me feel like how I feel when I'm there, which is
exactly.
like it's like a warm hug. Like I don't know what it
Mhm.
is, but
It's
it's just
so
like it's so
welcoming.
easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's really easy to just be yourself there. I feel
Yeah.
and I don't know. It's interesting, but I don't know what about the island makes it that way. I don't know if it's just the energy there.
I wish I knew. I mean, I hope we don't find out because someone will probably try to copy that.
Capitalize on
Yeah,
it.
exactly. No, but man, St. Martin's just such a magical place for those who really like have grown and become themselves there. I definitely who I was in St. Martin is not who I am now, but it's a big reason as to how I am. You know,
Yeah.
I would never change it for a soul. Like I love it.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
it's like the more I look back, the more I can't help but smile because I'm just
Yes.
like, damn, like it is so magical. And I was so
Mhm.
blessed to even be born there. And like just thinking of like the odds of being born there, I'm just like, damn, like that is just incredible in and of
Yeah.
itself. Like my life has already been so amazing just because I
Mhm.
was born there. And it's something I feel like we take for granted sometimes when at least I was there, I was always like, "It's so hot, it's these people don't know what they're doing, the internet is shit, like, I just
Oh
wanna
yeah.
leave,
The
screw,"
internet.
you
My
know?
God.
Yeah, I'm like, I wanna, do stuff, and I can't do stuff here, and, like, when you leave, you're like, "Okay, yeah, I can do stuff abroad, but the people aren't the same," like, it's just
Mhm.
it's interesting, but I will say you're the first person I've met other than myself that refers to themselves as a Renaissance woman, and
Really?
when I saw that, I was like, "No way," like, because I swear, like, because for me, when, like this was kinda around the time when I was trying to figure out, like, people were asking you in school, like, "What do you wanna be?" Like, "Who is your role model?" And I was just sitting there thinking to myself, like, "I don't know, like, what the fuck?" Like,
Why am
I
I
don't
supposed to
know.
know? Like
And I was like, there's nobody, because like the whole point of a role model is like someone you look up to and you want to be like them. Like, and I was like,
Mhm.
there's nobody whose life I wanted. Like there's
Mhm.
nobody who had a journey that I'm like, yeah, that's the exact struggle I want to go through.
Mhm.
And I remember like we were learning about like the Renaissance and we were learning about like Leonardo da Vinci, and like he was this dude that he was a scientist, he was an inventor, he was a doctor, he was an artist, he was a philosopher, and they referred to him as a Renaissance man. And I was like, that's it. Like, I want to be someone that's not just good at one thing, but because I'm super curious, I'm good at many things. And so, like, because for me, it's like this whole idea of having one job your whole life. Like,
Oh God, yeah.
I'm like, "Kill me now." Like, this is ridiculous. Like, what the hell? Like, how is someone supposed to do one thing their whole life and expect that to fulfill them? I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Like, wouldn't your spirit as a human just be curious to wanna try other things and,
Yeah,
like,
there's
fail
no
and
way.
succeed at other things? And so I realized I was like, "Well, I wanna be a Renaissance woman because I'm not a man." So I was like, "Screw we'll edit that part out." And I was like, "Yeah, I wanna be a Renaissance woman." But this was just something that I had made up in my head. I was like, "Okay, this is what you wanna be." But
Mhm.
nobody else, like, I had ever met referred to themselves as a Renaissance woman. So I'm curious, like, how did you, become to identify with, like, being a Renaissance woman?
Um I'd say that I've always had this kind of like anxiety when someone would ask me like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I'd be like, "Oh, well, I don't want to tell you my whole life story." So,
Yeah.
like, what do I pick in this moment so that it sounds kind of accurate? So I always used to say artist, because I love doing a lot of things creatively. But I felt
Mm,
like, I'd say artist, and people would be like, "Oh, like drawing," and I'd be like, "Yeah,
yeah,
one of those things, sure." And it would just never compare. But I was how I kind of got this definition of myself. I just used to say I do everything. And this guy that I was talking to had a crush on, super great, woohoo. Um, he was asking me what I do, so I just went down the whole line of my life. And he's like, "Oh, okay, so like a Renaissance man, but a woman." And I was like, "Yeah, so a Renaissance woman." And I was like, "What the fuck? I've known this forever." And I've
yeah,
never associated that term with myself. And from there, I thought that that was the best way I could describe myself. And,
yeah,
like, that's what I want to put on my business card, like those type of things.
yeah.
It's the best thing I could have identified as. And it made me so happy once I drew that connection.
Right? That is so beautiful. Yeah, cause it's like I feel like it's just like you're just naturally feeding your curiosity and like you said, you're driving that to perfection, and I feel like I'm kinda the same way, like, when I'm into something and I'm putting my effort into creating it, I want it to be amazing. Like, I
Yeah.
want it to be perfect, which is
Hmm.
in the real world unattainable because what is perfection? But it's like you strive for like this standard in your head because you have like a very clear vision of what it is you're trying
Hmm.
to create, what you're trying to manifest. And it's like you're trying to get to that. And like
Exactly.
you know what that is, and it's hard to explain it to other people because they're like, "Well, this looks good," but you're like, "No, no, 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 no! Like
No,
you're
it's
not
not.
seeing the what I'm seeing."
Yep.
Okay.
You don't
So
get
just
it.
bear with me. Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. But it's so interesting because it's like sometimes I feel like it's so frustrating to be a Renaissance woman because it's not something that fits into our conventional like society, like where
Yeah.
you have one career and like you're supposed to be good at one thing and people only want to come to you for one thing. And I'm just like, like that just seems so
Mhm.
suffocating.
Yeah.
Like you're putting a cage on your potential and it's like we have this unique life to live. Like why would you only want to explore one avenue? Like isn't the point to just pretty much try everything?
Exactly. We have this one life. We might as well just try everything that we want, whatever we have interest in.
Exactly.
I guess I learned that from my grandmother. She has about 20 certificates in different things,
Awesome.
and she started really late because she had kids so young, got married at like 18. So her whole life, a big part of her life was taking care of her kids. And then I think when she finally decided to give herself this freedom, she started just taking all of these studies and doing all these things. Like now she's a major in French and she's fashion design and photography, and she just does everything. And because I saw her do that, that she's still doing that right now as well,
That's awesome.
I'm like, why wouldn't I do that? It makes so
Exactly.
much sense. And she really like always raised me to understand that because it was just me and my grandma and my mom for a while. I didn't have a dad in my life until I was like 8. So it was really great to have that like woman strength and energy around me.
Yeah. I feel like for me, like my mom was definitely the person, and even my dad too, that just let me like whatever it is I was curious about, like they were just like, "Yeah, go ahead, try it.
Mhm.
You know, you don't know. Just give it a try. Why not? Try your best. See what happens." And they always supported my curiosities. Like they were never like, "Oh, Harsha, you can't do that. You know, or you
Mhm.
shouldn't do that." They were like, "Yeah, if you can figure it out, sweetie, do it." And sure
Exactly.
enough, I was like, "Bet. Don't ask, don't question. Again, we on it." Like
Yep.
I was telling my friends the other day, like when I was I forget, it was like in middle school and we read this book and it was so amazing and I loved it. It was like I was a huge fan of this book that I found the author because I was like in love with the book. I needed to find this woman and tell her how
Oh.
much I love the book. So I emailed her and I was like, "Yeah, like the book is amazing." And at this time, I really wanted to be a director of films because I loved
Really?
cinema. I love movies. I would watch like all of the classics in black and white. Like I was super into it. And so
Wow.
I was like really obsessed with wanting to write. And so I wrote her and I was like, "Yeah, I love the book. Like it's amazing." And she wrote back and was like, "Oh, that's so awesome." And then me being like the kid like that knew no limits wrote her back and was like, "Oh yeah, you should totally make it into a movie. I could totally be your writer. Like just let me know. We can make it happen." And obviously she did not respond to
No,
the
she
second
was
email,
like,
which crushed
okay.
me. Yeah, no, which crushed me because I was like, "This is such an amazing book." I'm like, "This would be such a great movie. Like, why wouldn't she want it to be a movie? Like, it's so good." And I
Mhm.
was so frustrated, and I went to my dad, and I'm like, "Dad, like, I don't understand. Like, why wouldn't she answer me? Like, what the hell?" And he was like, "Why don't you write your own book? Write your own movie."
Yeah.
And guess what? I did. And it was so crazy because, like, I was in middle school, and I just sat down, and I had like, I was telling my friends literally the whole like plot to it yesterday and they were like, "Wow, like, this is amazing. Like, you wrote this when you were in middle school?" I was like, "Yeah." Like, I wrote it into a screenplay, then I turned it back into a book because I was like, "Oh, like, I think people need to read it before it becomes a movie, so, like, we
Mm.
have, like, a fan base, you know, like
Mhm. Mhm.
Twilight or, like,
Mhm.
your Divergent or anything like that." And but I was a kid on the island, and so nobody would publish my book, even though
No.
I went to the local publishing houses, and they were like, "This doesn't fit our genre, so we're not gonna publish this." And I was a kid, so I pretty much it's been sitting on my thumb drive ever since, but it's kinda just to show, like, this just innate curiosity and drive, and my parents just let me do it, you know? They even when I was like, "Let's find Will Smith and send him a copy of my screenplay," my mom was like, "Let's find Will Smith and send him a copy."
Exactly. That's
And it's
like the
like
best thing. That's how parents got to raise
exactly,
their kids, because
exactly.
if you don't teach yourself to be okay with this curiosity and follow it, you become so trapped, and there's nothing else that will like come to you or that you will go for.
Mm, yeah. And it's just like I think like the older you get too, like you feel like I read this like quote where it was like the more you like define yourself, the more you like constrain yourself. So it's like the more like you give yourself an identity,
Mm-hmm.
that becomes a label that confines you. So it's
Yeah,
like if you go and you get your degree in one field, now people only want to come to you for information in that field. When it's like, well, you're still a person that's curious, that's learning all the time, that you may have skills outside of your degree, but people only want to look at you for what your degree is in, which to me is very like infuriating because I'm like, I'm more than just an engineer. Like that's just one skill set that I have, but I
yeah.
can do other things. Like, why wouldn't you want to use that too?
Exactly. But we're so used to, I mean, that dates all the way back when it's like, oh, the baker down the road and this. So, man, it sucks because one day, you're going to find an interest in something else and you're going to go, "Oh, but no, I'm a baker. I can't do that. Why would I do that? I already have this." So, I just
Yeah.
got to calm down, go back and keep doing what I'm doing. And that's so unfulfilling because you're not like listening to your gut or anything because of this need to be associated with one term. I can't imagine that.
Yeah. It's interesting like the whole labeling convention that humans have. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's one of the cutest and most ironic and like hilarious things about being a human is like our need to label everything and
Yep.
like have it fit into a box and like
Yep.
be like you got to fit in this box. If you don't fit in this box, then it's all anarchy and we can't cooperate as a society if everyone doesn't fit in their box. And I'm
Yep.
like, wait a minute, why do we need these boxes? Like, what do these boxes have to do with anything? Like,
Exactly.
they
How do
don't.
they help?
They don't. You know, if anything, they make shit more confusing because
Yep.
now what do you do with the people that don't fit in the boxes and literally can't fit in the boxes and you're trying to shove them in the box? Like,
Exactly.
it doesn't work.
It makes no sense. It's like also a lot of times it just goes with every single thing, whether it's race, sexuality, it just keeps going. Like if you're consistently marking other, at a certain point you feel like you're not human, because then you're
Yeah,
like, there's no definition here that I feel like I can apply to or that I feel like I can work with. Um, like it just makes no sense. One of my friends, she's biracial, so she was like, I don't know. Do I put white or black?
feel
And
that struggle.
I was like, girl, I don't know. Like, I don't know. But so, and I never, I don't know, I never put black. I would always put other because
Same.
my mom or yeah, mostly my mom and my dad, they didn't raise me to not identify myself, but not identify myself as a black person because of the taboo on, I'd say specifically more like
The
Curacao.
weight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
where it was like, okay, well, black sounds bad. So we can't associate you with that, even though, you know, if we have to go into ethnicity, like
that
it
is what you are.
that's what I
Yeah.
am. And we just keep going. And I was raised with like white privilege. That's how my parents raised me.
Mm.
So when you're on the island like that for so long, it's fine because
Yeah.
there isn't really much racism for you to notice
Yeah.
or that's directed at you. More
Yeah,
on this
exactly.
island, we're being racist to people that are lighter than us. Or so when I finally go to New York for summer school, I'm like, this is great. I'm like, maybe I'm 12. I'm like, my God, I'm in New York. I'm in summer school for
Yeah.
fashion. This is amazing. Like, I'm
Yeah.
living the dream.
Exactly.
And I get there and immediately, like, I notice my whole class is just all white girls. And I was like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Great. I'm 12. So, but nobody wanted to hang out with me. And I started
Damn.
thinking, like, my mom raised me to understand that sometimes if people don't like you, it doesn't mean that they're jealous of you. It just means that maybe you're not their cup of tea, and that's okay. So I was like, cool. I'm not anybody's cup of tea. So I really took it to the dramatic extent of like, okay, no one likes me and it's my fault, you know?
Damn.
So I was like, cool, no problem. Went to summer school again the next year. And that's when I started noticing, like when I was 13, that it was racism. because of how the questions they were asking me about where I'm from. They're like, "Oh, you live in St. Martin? Cool." Is I thought that was just like a place for like vacations. I don't know that people live there. And I was like, "No,
Wow.
no, people live there." And they're like, "So what's it like living there?" I'm like, "Well, just like this. We just don't have skyscrapers, but for the rest, it's it's pretty much the same." And all these questions, or then asking me like, "What do I eat?" And "Do you put on
Amazing
sunscreen?"
food. Like,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah, these are
everyone.
some weird questions. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, damn, you don't want to know my favorite color? I thought we were trying to get to know each
Yeah,
other.
exactly.
So I don't know. I started understanding that, and I think it was only till I went to Holland last year, and maybe a little bit before that, where I was proudly identifying myself as a Black woman. I couldn't. It didn't make sense to me. It wasn't until a friend of mine, my best friend Devon, when he told me like, "Oh, but you're a talented Black woman," and it was the first time that someone referred to me in that way, where I felt
Mm,
as though that was correct. That I felt like,
wow.
yeah, I am, and it felt so beautiful, and I was finally able to proudly associate myself as a Black person, a Black woman, and it was weird for my mom to hear me say that as well. She'll see me post something and she's like, "Oh, I see that you're saying that, you're Black." I'm like, "Well, I am. And so are you." Like, I don't know how to tell you. But you are and I am and we all are. And,
Yeah.
she's since grown from that as well, because for her it came back for her childhood and all those things. Everything dates back to a reason.
Yeah. And it's I think especially in the Caribbean, like the effects of that mindset like is rarely discussed. Like there's a lot of things I feel like within our region we kind of just sweep under the rug and
Mhm.
assume like everything is gonna be all right. Hakuna Matata, like we're in the Caribbean, life is
Oh god.
great.
Yep.
Oh my God, let's not talk about all of our colonial, colorism, racism shit that we have,
Yes.
all of the pedophilia, all that shit. Let's not pretend
Yeah,
that
let's
happens.
it's
What do
not
you
there.
mean? Life is good. We're in the Caribbean. Yay.
Yeah,
Beach
look
life. Um,
exactly. Look at our
and I'm just like,
water.
bro,
Like, mm-mm.
bro, this is not okay. But I honestly like to hear like someone else say like, "Oh yeah, I always had to identify as other." Like I feel so seen because literally when like I was a kid, it's always been a struggle with my identity because I'm Indian and Black.
Mm,
And I don't look like your typical Indian person. Like I feel like most people, if they saw me, wouldn't like Indians, especially outside of St. Martin. When I tell them I'm Indian, they're surprised. They're like,
mm.
"Wow, really? Like,
Are you
oh,
sure? Yeah.
yeah, are you sure?" And I'm like, "Why would I lie about that?" I don't know why I would lie, but it's interesting because it's like when I filled out like my SAT, my PSATs, and they ask you about your race because in America everything is about race.
Yep.
I would always be like, I don't know because like I can't put Indian and Black. That's not an option. So I would
Mhm.
always put other. And I remember my college counselor was like, "Well, Harsha, you're smart," and pretty much he was saying like you're smarter than like the average Black person in the United States, so you should put Black instead of Indian on your ethnicity because it'll make you look better in the like the admissions process, which to me low key was like, what the hell?
It's so backhanded. Like,
Like, yeah, because I'm like, on one hand, you're insulting my people, and on the other hand, you're telling me how to get into college, which is what I want. But it's like in a way that's like demeaning to like
mhm.
my entire racial group. And ultimately, I did that, and I guess it worked in my favor because I did get into, schools. But it was just like this entire time, I always had to choose between
Mhm.
was I Black or was I Indian? And like,
Mhm.
I felt like the only place that understood my story was St. Martin because people knew me. They knew who my parents were. So like I didn't have to explain my whole backstory of like, yes, my mom and my dad. My dad's Indian, my mom is Black. They
Mhm.
had me, boom, child, But like when I moved to the States, it's like they just look at skin color first. So it's like they just look at you, like you said, a bunch of white girls just saw Black and they were like, "Oh, she's a Black girl." and
Yep.
just put you in that box, and they're like, "Okay, so she must be like this."
Exactly.
And even, like, when I came to the States, it was really awkward for me because as much as I do identify as a Black woman, I don't feel like I have this, like, colonial burden on my shoulders. Like, I
Mhm.
don't feel like I have that weight on my heart because I, like you said, never really encountered racism on the island. It was not something that was ever brought to my attention. Nobody ever made fun of me because of my race. Nobody ever
Yeah.
told me I didn't have potential because of my race. Like, these
Mhm.
were never issues that I ever had to deal with. And when I
Mhm.
came to the States and okay, I go and I try to hang out with the Black kids because I look like them. I
Mhm.
feel like culturally I can relate to them better than I can with Indians because with Indians you're dealing with an entirely different type of cultural norms, and that ties to gender stereotypes too, which is
Mhm.
even more frustrating for me. And so, but then when I go hang out with them, I realize like their version of blackness is completely different from mine. And I
Mhm.
couldn't fit into that definition of blackness because it's just not who I am. Like,
Yeah.
I refuse to look at the world as they are the enemy and they're trying to suppress me, because to me,
Mhm.
like, that's I don't want to live in a world where I feel like people are out to oppress me. Like, I'm going to be
Mhm.
my best self regardless of where the hell I am. And it was just interesting, and I felt like it created this divide because I realized, like, even though I was Black, like, I was still in this other, I was still other, even though
Mhm.
I was, and it was just weird. But I at this point, I feel like this is who I am. Like, I embrace who I
Yeah.
am. I embrace my culture on both sides. And to me, it's not something that I feel like I have to give up. And I don't even feel like I have to explain it. So it's like if I tell you I'm Indian and you don't believe me,
Well, that's your
that's your
problem.
problem. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Like,
because
I am done, like, having to explain why I don't speak Hindi fluently or why I
exactly.
don't know
Mhm.
everything that I need to know to be qualified as you're part of this race group. Like, I'm me.
Yeah.
And if you fuck with me, you will get all of this awesomeness. And if you don't, hey, on to the next.
There's like this what you were saying about feeling like you're always in this group of other. I had that for so long. And, then I was finally able to identify myself. And then when I went to the Netherlands and I was doing like night school after like just a course,
Mm.
it was always once a week at night. I'm done with school. It's in Amsterdam. That's freaking cold. It's like
Yeah.
winter. So,
Yeah.
like you're all covered up. And every single time. It did not fail. It was always the same way. The same police officers would stop me. Be like, "Where are you
Damn.
going?" And I'd be like, home. Like it's late." Like it's like, "Yeah, but
Yeah.
why are you out this late?" I'm like, "I had school." And they're like, "Who has school that finishes at 9 o'clock?" I'm like, "Me, right here." Like,
Yeah.
and other people. Like, it doesn't sound uncommon,
Yeah. It
but
doesn't at all.
always, like checking where are you going. This follow me to like get to like the tram and all those things. And it was so frustrating. And even a time where that had to do with being a woman. But I went and I was going home. It was late, maybe almost 2 a.m. And this guy is following me. So I go to the police officer at the train station. I'm like, hey, this person's following me, and my house is like 10 minutes away, but I just don't feel safe.
Yeah.
So they were like, okay, no problem. Well, I'll walk with you. So we go, all great. And then he escorts me home. And when I get home, he's like, well, what did you expect that guy to do with how you're dressed? Like, and I was like, excuse me? I was just wearing regular, like, shorts right above the knee and a crop top. And all of a sudden, it was my fault that I was being followed because of how I'm dressed. And he was like, you know how it is for people like you, like, you got to be careful. I'm like,
I hate
what?
when they say people like you. That shit is a microaggression in and of itself. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Like,
Oh
that
my
just made me want to
God.
punch you in the face. The minute you say people like you,
Hmm.
like, it's like your eyes roll because you're like, okay, I see what this is. Like,
Exactly. And it's just like, I don't need to hear it. I'm just trying to go home. Like, it's so exhausting that, I mean, you got to be a woman, and then you got to be black, or then just, man, it's life, and it's so exhausting, and it makes me not want to have kids because and I got to
Yeah.
bring my kids into all of this type of
This
stuff.
shit.
I can't.
Exactly.
I can't do that. It's just too exhausting. And my Apple Watch is like going. Um, it's exhausting. I couldn't imagine bringing kids into this world when it's like this. And so that's why I'm just gonna have dogs, you know. And I'm okay with that. 'Cause what
Yeah.
the fuck?
I'm on the fence because it's like a part there's a part of me that's like I want to have a kid just because I would
Mhm.
love to be able to raise a human and like to
Mhm.
see them grow and to see them thrive and to see them like challenge themselves and stumble and like get back up and be stronger. Like that is so beautiful.
Mhm.
But it's like again, like I have to weigh that with the bullshit of everything else.
You
And
can't
that is a
protect them.
growing pile. Yeah, it's like you really can't protect them. And I like and then it makes me look back at my childhood and then I'm like so grateful for my parents because I'm like, holy shit, y'all did a fantastic job. Like really. Cause like I can only imagine like the amount of just shit out in the world that like you have to deal with. And it's like I feel like we don't give people enough credit to wake up every day and to be alive every day to deal with this
Honestly,
shit because it is like you said exhausting
it's
to like
exhausting.
have to move through this world when you know like all of these labels are being applied to you that are constraining. It's like chains, you know, and you literally
Mhm.
can't do anything about it because it's not even you, it's like everybody else and how they look at you.
Oh, it's so
And you can't
frustrating.
change that. Like you
Mhm.
literally are powerless to change that.
Yeah, your whole life is determined by everyone else's opinion. You know, that's how everything's going to go based on their perception of you, on how they feel about you, and that's how your life is going to go. And then or you just fight the good fight and it never ends. You just keep fighting. And like, damn, I'm tired of fighting. I can't I Nobody wants to fight.
I feel that. But I feel like it's interesting because I don't feel like older people like, I don't know if they
Don't
think
get me
about this
started.
stuff. Like,
No, they
I'm
don't.
just like, do you are you guys like aware? Like, I'm like, we have one life on this beautiful paradise called Earth. The only marble in this whole plethora of space and darkness and emptiness, where we have water, food, rainbows, mountains, lakes, some of the most beautiful animals in the world, the
Mhm.
best fruit, all this shit and you wanna tax a you know, you wanna
Eh,
deal with
they
taxes,
don't
you
care.
wanna
Like
work,
old
you wanna
people
deal
do
with all of
not
these
care.
labels, you
Mm-mm.
wanna, like, just trudge away meaninglessly just to collect more crap, and I'm
It's
just
so
like
stupid.
and then it's like you work for a job that's stressing you out about creating more crap, like, that we
Mhm.
don't need in the world, and then I'm like, "Why? Like, why?
And
Why?
it's funny
What is this
because
doing for you? Like,
no idea. I
how is
wish I
this
knew
working?"
because they're the same people that will complain about how difficult their job is. Like, do you know how much time and energy and how much stress, how many sleepless nights? Do you know the last time I saw my wife? I'm like, first of all, ain't nobody
And that's
told you to get that
clout,
job. Like, that's all you.
and people use that as clout, like,
Yeah.
to fulfill their ego, to make up for the shit that they have to deal
Mhm.
with, they justify it to themselves by creating clout, and I'm like, "That is straight up delusional, bro."
It
Like, that
really
is
is. It
like
makes
textbook delusions
it's
forming.
so bad. So bad. I can't with old people. I cannot. I cannot. My
And I'm just like,
grandma,
"Wait, where's you're
mm-mm.
the kid? Like, what happened to the kid in you? Like, who killed
Yes.
them?"
Ugh, I wish. I wish they would understand that, but they're so stuck in this like, well, I'm not a kid anymore. I'm like, no
But you
shit.
are.
Like,
But you are. Like, nothing's
yeah.
changed. It's just that your meat body has gotten older. You know, the bones aren't growing as fast as they used to,
Mhm.
but that kid is still there. Like, it's never
Mhm.
left you. It's just like other people telling you you need to grow up.
Mhm. It's
That's what
exactly
kills the
that.
kid.
That's
You know
what
what I
does
mean?
it.
Ridiculous.
No, it makes no freaking sense. Can't stand it.
Ridiculous. 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 I mean,
Uh-uh.
I pray. I mean, I've heard like because of COVID and everything, there's like a labor shortage, so more people don't want to go to work anymore because they realize like it's shitty.
Mhm.
Uh, but it's like I feel like especially in this world where we have like Fiverr and like Upwork, like why do you need employees? Like I really struggle with like why companies feel like they need somebody to devote their life to this like to working when like we all know nobody wants to do that shit for real.
No.
Nobody wants to do it, you know. And we
Mhm.
do it because well, you need a paycheck because you need to be a big
Exactly.
boy now, and you gotta pay rent, and you know
Yep.
there's insurance, which is a scam, and you need health care, and you need this, and you need all this
Oh my
stuff to
god.
be an adult. And I'm like, fuck this. Like, why
Mm-mm.
does it have to be this way? Like,
It's
I don't
exhausting.
understand it. It makes no sense. And I'm like,
No.
I don't understand how this benefits people. Like, as much as I love our civilization, I love humanity, I love all the cool shit we build, I love how we are able to work together.
Mhm.
I'm also like, guys,
Mhm.
we can do this in a better way. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it doesn't have to be this soul suckingly
Mhm.
depressing.
Yeah, everyone's always into these like quick and easy solutions that benefits one person, but they never think about what we could do to benefit everybody.
Exactly. And it's like I think like it's funny because then people always say, "Oh, it's rich people's fault." You know, like it's the billionaires. They hoard all the money. They don't want to spend it. They don't want to give it to anybody. And like I think it was the World Food Organization or whoever distributes the food or like tries to deal with world hunger. And they were like, "Oh yeah, like if rich people just donated a a small percentage of their wealth, we could fix it." And so Elon was like, "Okay, show me the plan, and I'll give you the money." And watch, they haven't said anything, and
No,
it just
they're
goes
like,
to show you
"Oh,
it's like it's not a money problem, it's a people problem,
it's just
it's a
people."
mindset problem, you know what I mean? And it's
For
like
sure.
how our economies are structured is not
Mhm.
to make food accessible to everybody.
Mhm.
How is that financially viable to,
Mhm.
it doesn't help the economy if everybody gets to eat.
Yep, exactly. It's like I don't know, there was this person who I forget their name, but they create these jokes of like what it's like to explain our society to people like to alien, for example.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, it makes no sense. Like this is kind of stupid. But here we are, just trying to live, not to pay these damn bills,
But just to exist
just
in
to exist.
paradise. It's
Exactly.
like I pray for us. I honestly do hope though. I feel like there's a shift, a gradual shift. It's happening. I just I pray our generation doesn't give up the fight and reaches that point where they also are forced to grow up, and then it's
Mhm.
like now well we're too busy with other shit to
Mhm.
realize like we were trying to change this so we didn't have to
Exactly.
live this way anymore. And it's not to say like we need to destroy the entire society because there's a lot of it that works. It's just there's a lot that doesn't work or needs to be
Mhm.
tweaked or is being corrupted that we need to be like, no, no, honey. I feel like the whole decentralized movement will get us there because one person can't run the ship because clearly that's
It hasn't
not
been
working.
working. Like
It's not like
someone needs
this
to
one
speak to management.
figurehead.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. This man yeah, exactly. Management, we got a problem here. This not working. But it's like
Mhm.
a mindset shift because I feel like so many people get like value out of the identities that they form around who they are
Yep.
that like if you tell them that that doesn't mean anything, they're defensive. Like your ego is triggered and
Yeah,
like
of
you want to
course.
defend against that cuz it's like for you to say, "Oh yeah, being the president ain't shit. It doesn't mean anything to be the president." You're killing so many people's like hopes and dreams and like that's their
Exactly.
whole like meaning of life.
Yeah, I know. There's so many different things. Anytime you break something down, there's bound to be a lot of people who are like, "But wait a minute. I've I've been working for this and I'm almost there, and you mean to tell me that now I can't do this anymore?" Like I feel bad. There's like 5-year-olds like, "I'm going to become the president of the United States." And I'm like, "I'm sorry,
That was
sweetie."
me, bro. I thought I wanted I thought I wanted that job and I low key
Mhm.
am glad I could never be the president of the United States cuz look at what it
Mm-mm.
did to Obama. Poor dude was
I know.
young and thriving and now he grayed him, aged him,
I
but
was
now
just
he
about to
thriving
say,
again.
yeah, the gray hair man. Whew. Shout out to Michelle, sticking beside him.
Yeah,
Like,
because I could only imagine being tested by these people because I'm sure behind closed doors I would be like, I'm
Fuck this.
quitting. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
like I can't deal with these people anymore. Like, what the hell? And all they have to say is bad things about me in the news. I
Mhm.
cannot anymore. I'm
Mhm.
quitting.
That's how I
Quitting.
always feel. Like when I used to do when I was a tutor in the afternoons and I would teach kids, it made me look at how other teachers were teaching them, and every day I wanted to quit. I was like, I can't do this. I can't keep fixing other teachers' mistakes.
Exactly.
And then
Exactly.
and oh my god, and those kids, they hate you. No kids like teachers. It's so difficult for them to like
It
you.
is because you're forcing them to do
To
something. They
do
just want to
something.
play, and you're telling them,
Exactly.
"I need you to sit down and pay attention because I'm trying to
Mhm.
teach you stuff so you can understand the
Yep.
chaos happening around you that you're
Exactly.
ignorant to right now
Yep. And it's
because you
so
just want to
difficult.
play."
Like, how do you
Yeah,
explain that to a kid? But, I created a system that the kids liked, and that's what I love about teaching is kind of like breaking that. But my God, I felt bad every day being like, all right, we had fun. Now you got to sit down. Sorry.
yeah.
And then they look at
I've
you
got
like,
to
really?
indoctrinate you now.
Yeah. They're like, 5 more minutes. I'm like, that's what you said 10 minutes ago. So I can't. Ugh, no.
I mean, it just that you have must have tremendous patience to teach the youngins because
Whew,
yeah, that ain't
it's
easy.
it's a lot. I teach my little brother, and he's great. He's so sweet. But oh my God, does it take a whirlwind of patience? And like what I show on social media, I'm so glad everybody likes it because it's just the only good 5 minutes that I show, and the rest is a struggle. And I don't even get a chance to record the struggle, and I should probably start doing that so people can see. Because my God, this little dude, if he doesn't want to do something, he'll be like, "Why? Like it doesn't make sense." I'm like, "I
And the thing is
agree."
like, how do you exactly? You like you also know it's bullshit, but you gotta be like,
Exactly.
I know we both agree that this is shit,
Yep.
but we're gonna have to do it anyways. Like
Mhm.
we're gonna have to sit down, and I know you don't want to, and I don't
Mhm.
want to either. But this is what we gotta do.
Yep.
I'm trying to help you out here. I know you don't see it now, but
Yep.
in the future you will thank me.
Man, like, and now he's homeschooled, so like he doesn't get to go out and play and stuff, but it's for his own benefit, learning wise. And then I think about how I felt when I was homeschooled when I was little, and I think about like how did I feel? Like I get exactly why he feels the way he does. It's There's benefits to it, but it can be exhausting in the sense of being like you're always home, you
Yeah,
know.
I guess I'm gonna ask, like, so how is it actually being homeschooled? Like, I guess, do you feel like it? Because I feel like the argument when people say like, "Oh, I don't want to homeschool my kid," is like, "Oh, it'll affect their ability to make friendships or like have regular, like a normal childhood
Mhm.
being around other kids their age." I guess, like, as someone that has been homeschooled and like, is homeschooling your brother now, like, how do you think that that has played out for you? Because I feel like you're phenomenal. So
Oh, well, thank you. um, I'd say that I started homeschooling when I got to St. Martin. I did LU for 1 year, and
bet
then
I went
then
there
they
too.
they switched principals, and my dad was like, "Oh, why are we paying this much extra?" And he wouldn't say, so my dad was like, "I'm taking my kid out of school," and they're
Was this after Miss Sue left?
yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I was
So
there then. Wait, I
yeah,
was there then. That's crazy.
so left, and there I was. All of a sudden, my parents come back from this meeting. They're like, "You're not going back there," and I was like, "Excuse me." Like, I didn't make this choice. I have friends there.
Yeah.
So then they wanted to get me into different schools, but my mom didn't want me to be in a school that was religion based. And then they didn't want me to go to CIA because of the switch of educational system.
Canadian.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
So they
Hot
were
mess.
like, homeschooling then. I'm like, cool. So I was still going to dance in the afternoons because I dance like 6 days a week. But in the mornings it was homeschooling, and it ended up being okay. It worked for me in my
Mm.
sense. I wish I had done a different homeschooling program. Like
Mm.
the program you choose affects how your school experience is as well.
Okay.
But I'd say that being homeschooled was what's best for me because I I wasn't good at socializing, and the friends that I did have were, like the only people that I would hold close to me. And I don't if I was still going to school, I would have probably gotten bullied more. So
Aw.
I'd say like homeschooling in that sense, it was great because then I was kind of protected from that and it gave myself time like to build myself up to like be ready for those
Mm.
moments and all those things, you know. Not everybody has to get like tortured to learn. So
Yeah, I feel you.
yeah,
Yeah.
so in that sense is good. But homeschooling, it has its downsides. I don't think it affects any kid's personality in the way that they are socially. I think that
Mm.
that is just an internal, like it's the kid that himself, him or herself doesn't know how to be social. And that would have been a
Mm.
problem whether or not they were going to school. But
Okay.
parents don't look out for that if their kids are going to school. They think, ah,
Yeah.
whatever, they're going to school. They don't pay attention to that. They only look
Yeah.
when a kid is homeschooled then every because you see it as a downside, right? So everyone starts thinking, oh, she's homeschooled, so we have to make sure she's social. We have to make sure that she does this. We have to make sure that she does that. But when you send a kid
Mm.
off to school, you're not thinking about that. You're just like,
Yeah.
she's social, she's out, she's this, she's that. It's all assumptions, but you really don't know.
That's such a valid point because yeah, you're right. There are introverts whether you go to regular school or you go to homeschool. Like you'll
Mm-hmm.
be shy regardless of that fact. Low
Exactly.
key, now that I'm thinking back to my childhood, I'm like low key because my like low key like literally when Miss Su changed, my mom also was considering taking me out of LU because she
Mm-hmm.
was like the work was too easy for me and they weren't like really challenging me and I was super curious and I my mom wanted me to pretty much have the resources to be my best self. That she was my
Mm-hmm.
number 1 champion, like, she was always there fighting for me in the
The
school, and
best.
I love her for that, and she was gonna put me, like, yeah, in St. Dominic's to do, like, the whole IB track, but they didn't have space, and she was like, "How could you not have space? Like, she's freaking brilliant, like, why wouldn't you?"
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, and so then I ended up being stuck at LU, and I agree, it's definitely a traumatic educational experience, which is unfortunate. I think
Yeah.
I would hope that there are teachers there that are fantastic and they actually care about your education and they, want the best for you, but there are also
Mm-hmm.
faculty that really just want to be all up in your business. And
Yep.
it's like, can you grow the hell up, adult that
Yep.
you say you are, and like
Mm-hmm.
stop macroing in children's lives, like
Yeah.
to feel better about yourself and like your parenting skills, like shit, this is
Exactly.
not what school is about. But
Exactly. And I feel like school is really like lets you know how someone really behaves and it's difficult with education because it brings out or it puts to light, not brings out, it puts to light the problems that kids do face, whether it be at
mm,
home or whether it be in the school or with themselves. And, you know, I see it all the time is that a kid is going to school and because they're not going according to how everyone wants them to go, there's
it's a
now a
problem.
problem.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I remember in my report cards, there would be like, Devaney's really good, except for when she does this. And
Mm.
Devaney's really great, except for when she does this. And I realized it was really consistent. And my mom did too. But my mom was such a like, my daughter's amazing type of mom. I
Yeah.
love her for it. So she was like, these
Yeah.
people are stupid. They don't know
Yeah,
you.
exactly. Yeah,
So I'd
exactly.
never take it that way. But then when she had my little brother and he got diagnosed with autism, she was like, so it's autism. But I don't know. He's so much like my daughter. And then the doctor's like, really? So maybe you don't think that? And she's
The
like, yeah,
apple didn't fall far
yeah.
from the tree. Yeah.
So and then I got diagnosed with autism only last year actually, but I had the um a lot of evaluations before that, but I never went through the process to get diagnosed because it just didn't seem like a priority. You know, I was
Yeah.
sick. I was like 16 and a therapist was like, "Yeah, you have autism, but you need to get officially diagnosed." And I was like, "No, I'm good. Like it's cool. It doesn't seem
Yeah.
like I have bigger fish to fry, okay? I'm trying to go
Yeah.
to carnival. Like my priorities are not there right now. Like
Yeah.
I was, you know,
And
that
let's put a
wasn't
pin in that. We'll come back to that later.
exactly. I was like, no, I'm trying to get a boyfriend right now. Like I have bigger things in my life.
Yeah.
That was my priority. And then so only last year I got diagnosed and yeah, it was so weird to kind of see it on paper. And
I guess
then
I guess how would you explain autism to people that don't understand or aren't autistic as someone
mm,
that now identifies as having autism, like, cause I feel like it's different for every person,
yeah.
right? So it's like,
Mhm.
I guess, like, how would you explain how it shows up for you in, like, your human experience?
Yeah, I mean, autism in general is just your brain is wired a different way and your sensory is completely off. In my
Mm.
case, especially, like there's so many different things that I'm sensitive to with all of my senses, which is wonderful.
Mm.
So, if I touch something that's really textured, my skin will swell. And that's like a symptom
Mm.
of my autism. Or when I flush the toilet, I close my ear because I can't deal with the noise. When
Mm.
I open the blinds, I squeeze my eyes really tightly closed so that I can feel better about that. And if there's really loud music, I have to like close my ears for maybe a good like 10 minutes and then I'll be used to it.
Mm. Okay.
So it's just those things. But then, I guess the difficult part of the diagnosis for me was learning that I'm my the reason, yeah, I have anxiety and depression is because of my autism.
Mm.
So it's kind of frustrating to get that diagnosis because it lets you know that you're going to have these depression swings and anxiety and all of that. And sometimes it's not going to have a reason, it's just going to be your autism. And that was really
Mm.
frustrating because I went really to my therapist to get diagnosed for depression and anxiety. And I was like, I know exactly where it's coming from. Don't worry. Let me tell you. And I broke it down. And he was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyways, so let's talk about that other thing you said. And yeah, he was like, you're going to have these depressive moments like anybody else has, but it's not going to be pinpointed to a situation. So I used
Mm.
to think if I fix that situation, my depression would be
Yeah.
gone. And then he's
Yeah.
like, no, it won't. I'm like, oh, that's nice. So that was frustrating for me. And everybody else has autism differently. Like my brother, he's autistic and he has ADHD. So he's
Mm.
super social and he's super hyper and he just wants to talk to everybody. And I was the opposite. I was like, I don't need to talk to you. Don't touch me. I don't like being touched. All like, so I was like, nope, it's okay.
Yeah.
Didn't even want to look at people. And, but my mom was like, that's just how she is. And she would defend me on it, so I never felt ashamed. Someone would be
Yeah.
like, why doesn't she look at me when she's talking? And my mom is so I feel like she's a bully sometimes. She's like, maybe you're ugly. Like, like, damn, I don't think that's the reason. But my mom would defend me no matter what. So I never
That's
felt,
awesome though.
yeah,
That's
I love it.
awesome.
I never felt weird about it. I was like, yeah, mom, maybe he is ugly. Like a little kid.
Yeah.
So, no, I don't know. Autism, it's definitely beautiful. And it's the reason why I am the way I am. And I really am very much in love with myself.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
mean, you're a
just,
beautiful soul, man. There's lots to
appreciate it.
love.
Yeah, so it made me love myself even more because it made it easier for me to understand myself. A lot of people don't like the
Yeah.
labels, and
Yeah.
I don't let it define me, but it helps me answer some questions sometimes. It's about
Yeah.
the conversation with myself. I really don't
Yeah.
care how others feel, but it's so that I can go home and know, okay, this happened because of this.
Yeah.
Now I know how to process that
Yeah.
information.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think it's really just like helping yourself have that narrative so you can be kinder to yourself because otherwise you'll just be
Mhm.
frustrated like why am I feeling this way and I'm trying to fix all of these things and it's not making me feel any better and
Yeah,
I just want to fix this. But now you have an
exactly.
answer. So you can be like, oh, "Okay, this is why I feel this way." And so
Yeah.
now I know to be kinder to myself in this moment
Mhm.
because it's like I know this is how I feel and this is just who I am and I have to be okay with
Yeah,
that because this is the life that I have and
exactly.
that
Man,
is
so many
awesome.
times we're like talking about how we need to be kind to other people, which is so true, but we got to be kind to ourselves first.
We
Like
really do.
a lot of times we're so hard on ourselves and then we easily project that energy onto others. And
Exactly.
man, we just got to be kind to ourselves. We wake up every day, we feed ourselves every day. We basically trying to keep a human body alive. And then
And people barely feed themselves correctly too today.
exactly. Ugh, me right here. I don't.
I
Like,
feel you. Same.
oh my
I'm like
God.
I'm part of that group of with the problems.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like,
That's
I'll
but
tell my
working on
friend,
it.
honestly, like,
Yeah.
my friend will be like, oh, I have a stomach ache. I'm like, you shouldn't eat so many carbs. I say, as I have like my fifth garlic bread today. And I'm like, mm-mm-mm. Like, it's just,
Hypocrite speaking, but I'm
Yeah,
just saying, I'm telling you the advice I need to follow, but,
exactly.
I'm telling it to you, imperfect
Mhm.
people, but I think it's adorable, and it's interesting because I feel like I'm so hard on myself because I expect that perfectionism because it's like I'm
Mhm.
striving to be this version of
Mhm.
myself that I wanna be her so badly that it's like
Mhm.
I'm trying to be her, and it's like sometimes in that process, I get angry at myself today when it's like, "Sweetie, like, you're on a journey.
Mhm.
It's you gotta be kind to yourself because it's not you're not
Yeah.
always gonna be at your peak, you're not always gonna feel motivated, you're not always going to want to be creative,
Mhm.
and that is okay." Like, you have to ride those ebbs and flows because, like, that is a part of that human experience. That's, like, what
Yeah.
makes you be a human, and, it's interesting that we get like, our ego wants to get mad at what is humanness.
Mhm. It really it's makes no sense.
It really doesn't, but it's like to have that inner awareness so that when you have those conversations with yourself that you recognize and you're like, "Oh, that's what that is. Okay, okay. Like now we can deal with that. Like we can
Mhm.
work around that. Now that we know, we've identified it, we can work to fix that or we can work to make room for that, create space for that, instead of
Exactly.
just being like, "Why are you this way?"
Mhm.
And then you're just like all that anger and frustration burns more
Mhm.
energy and then you
Yeah,
feel
the
even more
constant judgment.
exhausted. Yeah, and you
Mhm.
feel even more just like
Uh-huh. Exactly that. Like I can't. It's a lot. It's so much. And then I don't know, then also painting this narrative where it's like you need to be a certain way in order to
yeah.
also involve yourself in any type of relationship, whether it's your friend or a partner. Like you tell yourself, I can't be friends with this person right now because I'm doing this and this. So you're just gonna go through that alone. Like it's all about being transparent. Like,
Yeah.
cool, have no friends, no partners, no nothing, and just try to figure yourself out alone, I think is the worst way to do it, you know? At the end of the day,
We need support, like, you
yeah,
need
you
support.
need the support, and maybe you end up being the villain in their story, and that's okay. You know, you just got to understand that you go in with the correct motives, then everything is okay. You know, don't
Mhm,
willingly go in
intention is
there.
key.
Exactly.
Exactly,
Before someone
exactly.
hears this, don't willingly go in there and be like, I'm gonna be a bitch because I'm doing bad. No, just
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Be like,
but
"Okay, I know I'm in a bad place.
mm-hmm.
Maybe we should just be quiet today. Maybe we should practice
Yeah,
listening. Maybe we
exactly.
don't talk today. Maybe we let other people talk. We let other people have space
Mm-hmm.
to show up when we're not
Mm-hmm.
feeling as great." Yeah.
Exactly. We can't isolate ourselves every single time we don't feel good. It just doesn't work that way. I did that. One of my friends told me, like maybe a couple weeks ago, like, excuse me, you know you have friends, right? I was like, I do. I had no idea. Thank you.
I
So,
know, cause like, I'm always in the narrative, I don't have friends, I'm a loner, nobody likes me, well, not to say nobody likes me, but it's like, nobody understands me the way
mm-hmm,
that I understand me, so I always think people think I'm weird or that I'm crazy or that I'm,
mm-hmm,
awkward, but it's like, "Harsha, nobody thinks that about you, okay? No, nobody thinks that about you, you're just saying that crap in your head,
mm-hmm.
but nobody feels that way,
Yeah, you're placing
just
the judgment you have of yourself onto other people. You're like, anyways,
yeah.
that's how you feel, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, and they're like, "What? I don't even know you." I'm like, "No, no, I know. That's exactly what you're. You just don't like me." No, I feel
Yeah,
that. That's how I am a lot of the
yeah.
time.
And it's like I think also like having expectations that people are gonna treat you the way you want them to treat you when like you don't even realize like what the hell is even going on in their head and you're
Mhm.
judging them because you're like, well, you didn't treat me the way that I hoped you would, so you must hate me. And so that's why we are
Mhm.
not friends. You must hate me because you didn't treat
Uh,
me the way I wanted you to. And so that
yeah.
means so now every time I see you, I'm gonna have this assumption in my head, which is gonna
Mhm.
like affect every conversation we have because now I'm thinking you hate me when like literally maybe you just weren't feeling great that day.
Exactly. Or that also like works perfectly well into like learning that like you need to learn to care for someone how they will feel like cared and loved for. You can't like
Yeah.
love somebody the way that you want to be loved because what the
Yeah.
fuck? It don't got that ain't gonna work. Like you're not loving
Exactly.
you. You're loving a person.
Exactly.
Get to know them, and that's the one I think biggest flaws in a lot of relationships is when they're like, well, my girlfriend, you know, like she like I don't get it. She doesn't love me, and I'm giving her all this love. I'm like, no, 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 no.
You're giving her the love you think she
Yeah.
needs.
And
Yeah.
that's because no one is not no one. A lot of people are not taking the time to get to know one another, to really understand what do they need in order to feel
Mhm.
fulfilled in
What
this
is their
like
love
relationship.
language?
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
that.
And then you get mad because 'cause you're like, "Shit, they're not I'm giving them what I think they want, and they're not giving
Mhm.
me what I want, so they must be a
Mhm.
shitty partner, so I have to dump
Mhm.
them because
Mhm.
they're obviously not the one."
Sometimes it's
Obviously.
just about having a conversation. Like
Precisely.
you know, you can talk about how you feel like this isn't going good and why it isn't going good without breaking up. You know, a lot of people are like, "Well, it's not going good, so
End it. Just
time to
end
end
it.
it." But you
Gotta
know,
cut the
like,
string
yep,
because 'cause they're gonna hurt me before I hurt them, so we just gotta we'll end this right here,
yep,
just
mhm.
snip.
It just makes no
Ridiculous.
sense. I can't. I That's how people work, I guess. You
I
know.
know, and I just like fellow humans. What is going on?
I wish I knew. I wish I knew. And I was explaining that to my mom, and she was like, "Oh, okay, well, so you don't like it when I buy you this?" And I'm like, "Really? That's what you took from this conversation?"
Like, I'm telling you how I like to be loved. Why are you taking it as a personal, failure? Like, I'm just trying to tell
Yeah.
you
It's like,
what
"So
gifts
what
I
about
like.
that time I did this?" And like, "No, let's not go
We're
back in
not
the
we're not
past.
reju
Let's just learn."
exactly. Let's learn going forward. But it's like it's hard because you need to first realize, like, what do you really like? Like, how do you like to be
Mhm.
loved? How do you like to be rewarded? And, like,
Yep.
most people don't know
Mhm.
really how they like to be loved. And so it's
Exactly.
like, well, then shit, like, how do you expect someone to love you if you don't even know how you like to be loved?
Exactly. What do you
It's like
feel
you're
like you
setting the
need?
relationship up for failure. Exactly.
Exactly. Once you do all of that, then you wonder, like, "Ah, they just didn't understand me." I'm like, "Okay, well, tell me about yourself." "Well, I don't know, okay? Like, I don't."
You're supposed to know. You love me, right?
Yeah.
You should know. You should read my mind. You should know everything.
Oh my
That's why you
god.
love me, right? Like, you know me, right? This isn't
Yeah.
that the and
I
it's
love you for those
ridiculous.
abilities. It's crazy. Yeah, I love you because I know how to read minds. That's exactly
Yeah.
why. That's how it
Honestly, it does not work like that. It
no.
really does not work like that.
If it
But I'm
did, I think I'd be
curious.
in love with a lot of people. Like,
I feel that. Yeah. I'm curious. So, like, I love, so when I first found out about you, it was like when you were creating like all of your fashion projects and you were like being your
oh.
own muse. And
Mhm.
girl, you were out here creating all them patterns. And I'm low key trying to keep up with you. Like, so it's like I learned to sew one summer when I was here in Seattle, and I was, like, super into it, and I love the idea, like, 'cause I love fashion, but my issue with the fashion industry is everything is fast fashion, and it's like,
Oh
that is
god.
what
Yeah.
is toxic,
Mhm.
'cause, like, manufacturing, fabrics and materials is very unsustainable, just in the world
Mhm.
that we live, and I felt like we all have this, like, I love the fashion houses because they're creating pieces that are different, that are really
Mhm.
not like your mainstream clothes, and I love that. And I wanted to be a part of that, but I realized, like, to do that, then you have to start manufacturing clothes, and then it creates this
Mhm.
again, like, whole unsustainable industry. And I
Mhm.
was like, well, I feel like the solution to this is if everybody just made their own clothes. Like, what if
Yep.
we all were our own designers? And I was so inspired by your work because I was like, damn, like, look at this girl, she knows her patterns. Like, I'm trying to figure out how to make these damn patterns of my own clothes, and, like, how do I
Mhm.
even measure myself correctly, and how do I have, like, this vintage sewing machine, but I need, like, a more modern one because this one's cool and all, it's cute, but I need to figure out, like, how to stitch, how to create my
Yeah.
stitches correctly, and, like, that is my goal one day, is to be able to create my own clothes just for me to wear, like,
Mhm.
functionally, just shit that's comfortable that I
Yeah.
can just live my life in, and, like, I can wear and I can fix it myself and I don't need to just
Mhm.
throw it away. But I'm curious, like, what got you on your, like, or, like, how do you even come up with the types of projects that you work on? Because all of them are amazing, and I'm always inspired, and low key, because of you, I started making candles too, and I'll show
Oh.
you one that I made,
Oh, it's
like,
lit
with
right
recycled, because
now.
I was like, I'm in America, so, like, shit, I can't even buy the candle, but I was like, "You know what, Harsha, you have all these jars, why don't you make candles just like her? You can go make your own
Yeah. Go
candles."
make your own
And I did,
candles.
and I was like, but I'm like, low key, like, "Girl, how do you get your candles to not hole in the middle. I'm like, as someone has tried to do it themselves, I'm like, shit, like this girl really had to go through
Mhm.
experimentation to figure out how to get these candles to set properly. And
Yep.
like people don't realize all the work that goes into this. And this is me just from afar, like looking at you and being so inspired to create myself. And so I'm just like, I want to learn like how did you get into it and like figure out your process and
I'd
go through
say
that whole
like
like experimentation and all of that. Yeah.
um I don't know, I was going to this art program maybe when I first got to Curacao because my mom was like, "You're not gonna stay home all day, not, so you're gonna go do something." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well that sucks." So I did this art program. It was not for me, really. I was in it for 2 years, but uh, I learned a lot out of it in the sense of what I don't like and do like and all those things. But after that, I realized like I didn't like anything that was in my portfolio. So I started
Mm.
working on my portfolio. And while I was working on it, I was like, I should just start posting what I'm working on because it wasn't resonating with me to just post a selfie of myself and call it a day. I felt
Mm.
like I had a lot more to give. I had all these things I would write. Sometimes I would go on rants, and I was like, I might as well turn that rant into a project, and make it
Yeah.
more useful. So everything that I would write, depending on whatever it was, I used to say like I would go on my rampage, and then from my rampage, I'd pull a visual and try to figure out like the first one that I did had to do with birth control.
Mm.
And then I just kept going and I was like challenging myself with being like, okay, I'm going to create a project and it's going to be in one color theme so that I wouldn't get stuck making the same thing. So I was like,
Interesting.
this is green. Okay, it's going to be pink. It's going to be blue. I just kept going until I ran out of colors and then I stopped. To then when I've been telling myself whenever I feel like I'm getting comfortable is when I got to change. So I started
Which
to
is
get
the opposite of
comfortable.
what everybody else does. Like everyone's like, if
Yeah,
I'm comfortable, we're gonna stay right here.
this is
Like,
what we need. Like,
yeah.
yeah. No, so I was like, "Ooh, I'm comfortable. I'm gonna stop." So I stopped, rebranded myself, and I just started creating projects spontaneously because the ones that I was making, I would have done, and then 2 months later, I would post it, and everything was so like, everything was so thought out, and I took my time with everything. And then after that, I was like, okay, I've let me start trying to figure out how to do things without concepts. So I started creating clothes without concepts and just posting and posting and posting.
Mm.
And the only rule I gave myself was maybe to post 3 times a week or 2 times a week, something like that. And then when I got comfortable doing that, changed. And now it's where I am now with just branding myself better and giving myself the room to do whatever I'd like to do and switch up however I'd like to switch up, but staying true to my brand, which is just myself. And
Yeah.
I realized that that worked really well for me and is working really well for me in a sense of, like trying to show my imperfections and all of those things and my work. And I don't know, I was doing all of this, but I wasn't letting anybody know what I was doing for work because I was like, no, I'm shy. And now I'm like, no, I do brand designing. So I might as well get that out there, get some more clients while I'm at it. And now here I am teaching a
Crushing it.
course.
Yeah,
I
out
love it.
here
I'm
teaching the
loving it.
people, sharing the
Mhm.
knowledge, which I think is so beautiful because it's like you found something that you loved and now you realize like, well, this is something that other people would love to do too. And you could
Mhm.
share what you've learned in like all of this time that you've been learning and growing and experimenting. You can now teach others so that they can
Mhm.
also create, and I mean, I guess like so when you're thinking about like brands, what is your thought process when it comes to like having to create a brand
Mhm.
or just like the fundamentals of what's important to a brand? Because I feel like especially like in the marketing culture of brands, a lot of it is like how you feel when you think about that brand or like what it represents,
Mhm.
the insight, the human psyche that it's triggering. But it's like it's something that's so like elusive, but we all understand it when you get it right,
Mhm.
if that makes sense. Like it's something that it's hard to explain, but like once you found it, you found the right
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. That's why I always say is like branding anything. yeah, you got to start with your brand identity, but your brand identity is your gut feeling. And you
Mm.
should be able to identify that gut feeling in at least three sentences. And that's when you know it's solid. If you have to over explain something that you're doing, maybe you're not really sure about it or you don't feel confident about it. So it has to
Mm.
be a strong gut feeling, is what I always tell my clients. You know, they're like, I'm doing this and I guess I like doing this, but I'm not sure. I'm like, no, it's your gut feeling. What would you do if everything was perfect? Is always what I say.
Mm.
Like, it's the perfect world, your ideal world, what we do first. And they always know what to say because there's always that one desire that we don't really reach for because we're scared. So
Mhm.
it's just that. And you have your brand identity, brand image. You know, your brand identity is how you want to be perceived, and your brand image is how the audience perceives you, and
Mm.
they go hand in hand, you know, like, yeah, sure, we shouldn't care about how people feel about us, but we should care about those consumers, especially if you're selling a product. How do those consumers feel about that? Your brand image is going to affect your brand identity. Okay, great, they don't really like that, so what else can we look for in our brand identity that will balance that out?
Yeah. You clearly spent a lot of time thinking about all of this stuff, which is awesome to see because I love people that just I love it when it's like kind of you find that thing that you're obsessed with and you really just
Mm-hmm.
strive for it because I feel like there's so many people that just settle at mediocrity and it just as someone that strives for like my own level of perfection, it just makes me so upset to see when people settle because I'm
Mm-hmm.
like like we're just falling short of greatness
Yeah.
and it's like life is so short, like why would you ever settle for less than greatness, like
Mm-hmm.
why would you ever want to waste your time working on something that's just it's just
Mm-hmm.
mediocre. That's
Exactly.
you're not super passionate about it, but it'll get the job done. Like I'm just like
Mm-hmm.
why that's to me if it's not like a hard yes then it's like nah, like screw it, clearly it's not the
Exactly.
right thing, put your energy somewhere else, try something
Exactly.
else.
Mhm.
But I will say, like, it's interesting that you consider yourself shy because from the outside, I would assume you're very confident. Like even to be
Yeah.
the model of like your own pieces, I think takes so much confidence. And like I'm curious, like, how do you show up as so confident? Like when within you like sometimes consider yourself shy. Cause like, yeah,
Mhm.
I would think you look like a very confident, um, well-rounded and very like like knowing and
Mhm.
intentional creator.
I think that what makes me shy is I get really fearful about people's opinions, and
See.
or my own overthinking about, like, oh my
Yeah.
god, they looked at you 3 seconds longer than they did last time, something's wrong, you know, like all of that.
Yeah.
But I got this confidence because I know how shy I am. Like, I worked on my
Mm.
confidence because I was like, I need to be like strong within myself. If not, I'm not going to be able to make it out there making a simple conversation, or even with my work. And, just being like, okay, I had these project ideas and I was like, maybe I'll photograph people. But I was too shy to photograph people. So I was like, I'll just photograph myself. And
Oh.
then I photographed myself and I was like, this is great because it's helping me build confidence in myself and in my
Yeah.
ideas. And so it was a win-win situation. And, I go to social events if I know that at least two people I know are going to be there.
Mm.
But the minute I know it's crowded, I'm not going to be there. You're not going to see me. Like, I'll be at home. I will look at it through Instagram, like, but
Be like,
and I
that was cute.
cancel. Yeah, cute. You
Yeah.
guys had fun. That was so fun. Sorry I could make it. Just so busy. As I'm like eating potato chips. Like, it's
Watching from afar, like, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, looks cool, looks good.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's funny. I guess like so how can people that like wanna like learn about your next project or like they wanna keep up with all the amazing things that you do, follow your journey or like support your journey, or if they want to buy some of your merch. I mean, do you sell your fashion pieces or just the
No, but I'm
candles for
getting
now?
there. I'm getting there.
Okay,
I'm getting there.
okay, okay.
It's just now, so follow me, Dev Skylar. Well, Dev_Skylar. And then I have my business where I would be selling everything, and that's sweet as honey So, I love it. I love it.
I
I
love
love it.
it. No,
I
I
love
love
it.
like the story even behind Sweet as Honey is so beautiful. Like I'm just in awe. I'm like honestly,
Yeah.
like I'm a fan. Like I'm just like, damn, this girl is so cool. Like can I talk to her? Like she's so cool. And yeah, like a fellow Renaissance woman, like I can just hug you now, like virtually. Like
I love that. I love a
I
virtual
love another
hug.
Renaissance woman. Yeah, that's so awesome because I've never met anybody else that define themselves this way. And I always felt alone, like an other, because I
Well,
was like,
now
yeah, like
you're
I see
not.
myself. I'm not. And that's awesome. And I hope more people
Hmm.
realize that you can be a Renaissance man or woman and you don't have to confine yourself to one box because life is colorful. The
Hmm.
rainbow comes in a spectrum.
Yes.
Life is the same way.
Hmm.
And we should live it up.
We really should.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Chatterbox. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to show your support by subscribing to this podcast and leaving us a review. Follow us on Instagram at the.chatterbox for teasers and updates.